Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Paper Wishes Weekly Webisodes. I'm Sarah Newman, and today I am so excited to show you 7 different sets of foiled Fancies embellishments. We're going to see how beautiful these are to use as an easy embellishment on your cards, and then we'll take a look at a couple of simple ways to alter them by sanding, stamping, and alcohol inking. I have 3 card projects to show you, and we have a lot to explore today. I'm really glad that you're here, so come play with us. Let's take a closer look at our foiled Fancies. I have 7 sets to show you today. So let's start with the songbirds. Now these are foiled, embossed, die-cut images. These are made from a heavyweight paper. So you can see this little birdie I have here, quite sturdy and dimensional, but they're not really super bulky. So you can easily use them on cards that you're mailing and scrapbook pages too. Now I think you can see the connectors on here. You'll just need to snip the elements apart with a pair of scissors. When I flip over the package, you can see, because it's hot off the press, you get some project ideas. And you've also got a handy little guide down here to show you in red exactly where you can snip to separate those elements. Okay, so again, we've got the beautiful Songbirds collection. Gorgeous images. We've also got flowers. As you can see, really beautiful embossed floral imagery on here. We have the botanical frames. This one has a really nice, easy to use border on here, as well as some nice big florals. Then we have our flowers and lace. This one has, again, some really nice borders, but look at the size of this embellishment here, just in proportion to my hands. Really beautiful as a card focal, and of course, perfect for layering. Here we've got the Mystic Garden. This is another one of my favorites. Beautiful ferns. You've also got some bird cages, big, beautiful butterflies on here too. The Floral Fantasy. This one has a nice big frame, a mannequin, more butterflies, and some floral imagery. You can see you've also got some smaller elements on here too, some little butterflies. Really nice for some focal and accent images. Now here's another one that is a big favorite of mine and one that is super useful. It's the Words collection. So you've got some big scripty words. You've also got some smaller ones. And of course you can do some mixing and matching on here too. So while all of these can be used separately on your cards, I also found as I was working that they can really be used nicely together in between the different sets as well. Okay, now, of course, you can use these as your card focal. So let's take a look at putting together a really quick card. All of the card projects I have for you today are using the Lilacs in Bloom paper pack in 12 by 12. And here I've simply covered the front of a blank card with some of that lilac pattern paper. And I've inked the edges pretty heavily with one of my favorite ink pads. This is the Midas from Crafter's Companion, and this is a pigment gold ink. And it coordinates just beautifully with those foiled Fancies. Now I've also got a quick focal here. This is one of the cutouts from the Lilacs collection, mounted onto Lilacs in Bloom cardstock. And I have a little dazzle greeting down here below. So I'm just going to pretend that I've got this glued on here. I'll set it here for now. And then what you can do, it's as easy as this. I've got one of the swirl elements here. Just pop that down. If you want, you can add some more. I've got a little gold ribbon on here, and then instantly I've got a really beautiful focal element. The gold on here just adds such richness and beauty to a very simple card design. So that's how easily I can put this together. But if I wanted to take it a step further and alter my foiled Fancy, maybe give a little bit of sanding on here so I've got a kind of two-tone effect. With this butterfly, I can pop that down. Again, maybe add some other embellishments on here if I wanted to. Here's another one that has been altered, one of the flowers, and this has been stamped. You can see the black music notes on there and then also sanded. And again, if I wanted to, I could add another bit of embellishment on here too to finish this off. So you have lots of different options for using these, whether you're just pulling them right out of the package and putting them onto your card, or if you want to alter them a bit. So let's take a look at some different ways to personalize these. Now with this card project, I've simply sanded the foiled Fancies from the Songbirds collection and the words collection as well. Now to do this, I'm using the sanding tool from Hot Off the Press. This is a nice size and very comfortable to use. So if in the past you've struggled with sandpaper or those big clunky sanding blocks, this is a really nice option and maybe a little bit more ergonomically practical for you. So let's take a look at how to do this. Now I'm going to grab a foiled fancy. This is a floral motif from the Botanical Frames collection. And I'm just going to simply sand off the raised embossed edge that you can see here. So you can start to see where this is creating some beautiful contrast on here. Oh, I love that. This is such an easy way to get a dimensional look. You still get that gorgeous gold of the foiled fancy, but you also get a little bit extra depth and dimension on here. And I'm doing this quite gently in kind of a circular motion and making sure to get around on all of the edges as well as the center on here. So take a look at this. Isn't that beautiful? Such a great way to get two looks from one kind of embellishment. Now, if you wanted to go all the way silver and maybe you wanted to get the gold off of these inny areas here too, a little trick is to use nail polish remover. Just put a bit on a piece of cotton and rub that gently across here, and that will remove all of the gold and give you a beautiful silver motif. So you've got gold, you've got silver, and then of course in this case you've got the best of both worlds, which is a little gold and a little silver too. Okay, so going back to the card project here, you can see that I've used these elements to create kind of a collage motif here. The birds, of course, go perfectly with my stamped background here. This is the all over music stamp from Hot Off the Press. And I stamped this with black on top of some of the lilacs pattern paper. Now when I tilt my card, I think you can see, especially in this area here, a little bit of shimmery green. Now this is spattered opal polish. And this is a really fun way to add some shimmer to your project too. So I'm going to grab a piece of just plain white cardstock here and my Green Lemons opal polish. Now, some of you may have seen me demonstrate this technique before. I love this. I love using this with plain cardstock as well as on pattern paper. I'm going to use my palette knife to just get out a little bit of that opal polish and put it right onto my craft mat. I'm going to add a bit of water right next to it. Again, using my palette knife to kind of blend that together so I have a watery wash. This is going to spatter a little bit more easily because that opal polish is actually quite thick. It's a nice consistency for direct application, but if you want to splatter it, sometimes it's nice to have it be a little bit more watery. Okay, and I'm mixing this all with my palette knife. And then I'll get my Distress Splatter Brush, one of my favorite tools, and load up some of that opal polish right on the tips. And then holding this over my cardstock, I'm just going to splatter this on here. And you can see what a beautiful effect this has. So again, a little bit more shimmer, a little bit more shine, and some texture as well. Looks great on this piece of plain white cardstock, but of course will look beautiful also on pattern paper. It just gives you a slightly different look and coordinates beautifully with our metallics too. Okay, I'm going to move this aside, and I would just need to let that air dry for a couple of minutes, and then it is ready to be used. So again, you can see where I've used it on my background here, and I've also done some more splattering on the inside of my card, just the whole front, or the inside front and inside back. And I've also added some more stamped pattern paper in here, and a few more sanded words and a little birdie on there too, just as an extra bit for finishing off the inside of my card. Okay, so this is one way to alter our fancy foiled fancies with sanding. Now let's combine our sanding with a little bit of stamping to get a different look. With this card, I have a combination of finishes on my foiled Fancies. Here you can see the original gold of the medallion from the flowers and lace set. Then on top is another embellishment. Now this one is from the flowers collection, so you can start to see how well the packs work interchangeably. Now this one has been stamped with the music stamp we saw earlier, and then sanded to give it another finish. Now there are a couple of tricks to stamping on your foiled Fancy, so let's take a look at what you'll need. First of all, you're going to want to make sure you have an ink pad that works on non-porous surfaces. So even though those Fancies are made of paper, they still have a coated surface, so you'll want to opt for a stays-on ink. Okay, so I'm going to have that on hand. I've got my floral foiled Fancy, and then I've got my all over script stamp. Now this is from hot off the press, and I've got this onto a clear acrylic block, so it's ready to go. And what I'll do, because I know I'm only going to be stamping a small image, I don't need to ink up the entire stamp. I can just kind of focus on maybe the center area here, and I'll just apply my ink right to that stamp. And then I'm going to take my stamp, take my foiled Fancy and just pop it right onto the stamp. So normally you might think to take the stamp to the Fancy. You can do that. I find it's a little bit easier to get the Fancies up from your stamp if you go this way. So I'm going to grab this and lift, and you can see I've got my stamping on here. So I'm going to move aside my inky stamp, set that carefully to one side, and then I'm going to bring back in that same sanding tool that we used earlier. Now I do want to make sure that my ink is dry, so maybe give it just a little bit of a wave, hoping that ink will dry. Now it does dry fairly quickly, but just give it a second or two. And then I'm just going to sand the same way I did before. And this is going to not only remove that top layer of the beautiful gold that we saw earlier, but it's also going to remove some of the stamping on here too. So I'm just going to do as we did before and gently sand in a circular motion, and you can start to see that coming off. Working in the center and along toward the edges as well. You don't need to use really heavy pressure for this with the sanding tool. It works really easily, and it also gives you some nice even coverage as well. Okay, so I'm coming around here onto the edge, and there you can see that I've got the stamping, I've got the sanding, I've got two beautiful finishes in one. And then I've got, of course, that beautiful stamping kind of in the inny areas of my flower. Okay, so let's go back to the card project here. Take another closer look. So I've got my layered piece as my card focal. And again, I'm using foils from a couple of different sets. I've also got this beautiful border treatment on here, kind of going crossways. This is from the botanical frame set too, so I've worked that one in there as well. Now also on my card, I have another stamped area here, and here on the left, you can see I've also stamped that all over script stamp in black directly onto the pattern paper. And I think that just adds another nice little touch of contrast onto this card. Now I inked the card edges and also this center border area with my gold metallic ink, and that all helps to coordinate with the gold foiling. Now for my card inside, I have one more from the Lace and Flowers collection. I've got this swirl, which I've actually cut in half, kind of to make it a little bit longer. And then I've got this element also stamped and sanded. And I've got my Dazzle greeting on the inside and also on the outside too. So again, adding in a little bit more of that gold metallic shine to help coordinate everything. Now I do have one more technique that I want to show you, and you can see it here in this card. This one is adding some color to the foiled Fancies with alcohol inks. On this card I have some beautiful unaltered borders from the Flowers and Lace collection, plus this big gorgeous scripty word from the word set. Here you can see my flowers. Now these are from the Floral Fantasy collection, and the pink that you see on here is Ranger alcohol ink. This is a really easy way to color your foiled fancies while still keeping that beautiful original gold. So let's take a look and see how we can do this. Okay, I'm going to move aside my card, and I'm going to start with my butterfly right onto my craft mat. This will protect my work surface. The butterfly is from the Mystic Garden set. Okay, and I'm just going to take some of my flamingo alcohol ink and just drop on a few drops here. Now this ink is from the Beach Deco collection. And of course this will work with any of your alcohol inks. So I've just dropped on a few. I've got some blending solution here on the pad of my applicator. And I'm just going to pounce this on here to blend that alcohol ink. So already I'm getting some really nice color on here. Now you can leave it as it is here. You can also add on a little bit more. You can sort of highlight some areas of your image. Get a little bit more of that blending solution onto your applicator. And then again, just pouncing this on here. So easy to do, and you've got a really beautiful foiled and colored motif. Now all you need to do is let this dry, and again, like the stays on, it will dry pretty quickly, and then you can go ahead and sand if you want to, and that's again going to remove some of the raised embossed areas on here and give you a completely different look. So let me bring back in my trusty sanding tool and just sand this off. And here you can start to see, especially in the center area, where that is starting to lift off. And this is just going to give you a really beautiful colored, foiled, gold, silver, pink effect. And again, keep in mind this will work with any of your alcohol inks. So put it to use to create lots and lots of different looks. Okay, so I've got this sanded, and now you can see I've got some really pretty and different looks on here, all in one image. Okay, so coming back to our card project, here's another look at the front. Now, also on the card inside, you'll see the frame, and this is from the Floral Fantasy set as well. So is this big, beautiful butterfly, which again has been alcohol inked. And I've got some dazzles in here just to tie that gold all together. And of course, using some of the beautiful lilacs patterned paper too. So with this last card project, I think we've seen the versatility of these foiled fancies and how many different ways you can use them. Thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you for being a part of the Paper Wishes family. We're really glad you're here with us. I can't wait to see what you create. Do be sure to leave a comment. We love to hear what you think. Each item can be purchased separately, and you can see them below. However, we've also bundled them into a creative money saver just for you. For the money saver, just see this webisode on paperwishes.com.